welcome to another episode of Getting to Know Your Center Owners. You guys are gonna love these two, Deborah and Ryan. They're amazing. I have known Deborah for many years. I can't even tell you how long because I just forgot. She might know better than I do.
I know, that's part of my story.
Time doesn't really exist for me. It just, phew. And then I met Ryan when I went to do their training, and he's wonderful and lovely, and you guys will have so much fun with him. He's got a quirky sense of humor, in my opinion. It's really beautiful. I really like it. They're very beautiful people. So I'm just going to get right into this, and they're going to tell you how the egg found them.
Okay, is that the question? Great. Actually, I heard about this technology back in 2014. So actually, Gail, we've known each other for 8 years. We were, I was listening to a Gaia, and I've heard a lot of the center owners talking about Gaia and how significant that was. And I was listening to a Gaia interview that was talking about this technology, and it was like a 55-minute interview. And at the end of the interview, I but I had a knowing that was, you need to bring this to Sacramento. And that was in March of 2014. And so at that time, I went down to the current technology that they had down in Santa Barbara, which was a light box. And we did the full 12 sessions over the 3 months, the whole 9 yards. And then after all of that, I called you. And we met at that point in time, and I said, you know what, I want one of these things. Well,
and I have to say, let me just interject this because this is important. People are just going to love to come see you because, you know, people love Regina Meredith.
Yes.
And Deborah and I have had lunch with Regina several times, and Jean Slater, and I'm throwing out names here, but you have Regina's library, don't you?
We have Regina's lending library. Literally the week that we moved in here and opened our doors, Regina was moving back into Penryn, and I'd known her before this, back into Penryn, and she said, hey, I've got 20 boxes, banker's boxes of books. I don't want them anymore. These are all my interviews. And so we went over and brought them over here. So yes, we have Regina's lending library, which is amazing.
I had to just interject that.
That's good.
It's wonderful.
That's great. And so basically we ended up being able to go down to the Energy Genesis, which was down in Modesto at the time. And I would drive an hour and a half, go down for sessions. And after I went down for sessions, I kept saying to them, I've got to have one of these. I've got to have one of these. And this is during the time when you and I were talking a lot about what was kind of going on in the world of the chambers. The egg hadn't even come on the picture at this point. I don't think. This was early on. And so they called me one day and said, we're closing down our center. Would you like to buy the Genesis? And I go, absolutely. So we put the Genesis in storage for about a year, maybe a little bit more, and longer than that, and paid it off. And then before we opened up the center, we called you and we came to Colorado. And we came and we saw the original prototype with the big winged arm door that nobody really knows about unless they came to Colorado to see it. And we were able to talk to you about a business, what it would be like to actually start a business. And at that point in time, what we did is we committed to getting an egg. And so we opened up in June of 2019 with just the Genesis. And then we opened up the egg in November, and you came out for both of them and trained us for both. So we got to see you twice in 6 months, which was awesome. And the rest is history as far as kind of our story. And so
that's true. That's true. I mean, the Genesis is beautiful. And I know you have some stories you're going to tell. The egg came out in 2016 as an idea. 2017, we had the prototype. So you guys must have been out around 2017, maybe early 2018 to see that. Because then it got taken down, which was so sad for me because it was, you know, the egg that it was ugly, but it worked. And you know, that's what we tested. And when it got taken down, I couldn't even watch, you know, when Bill took it down, he's like, just go in the other room. I'll take care of it. And I was like, oh, my poor baby.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us some stories.
Well, also, I was going to say the wonderful thing is that Ryan and I get to work together. We've been on this spiritual path since he was 18 years old, studying. And you go ahead and say, you know, what my background is that I'm an EMDR therapist, have been for 22 years. I use sand play, I use a lot of stuff. I work with the emotional body. So this was a perfect combination between what I do with clients in a process setting using EMDR to move out trauma. When this came along, it was just a no-brainer. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. Thanks for saying that. And then go ahead, Ryan.
Well, very soon I'll be implementing past life regression therapy here. Not quite yet, but we're working on it. It'll be a little bit longer. I can't give you a definitive date, but something we'll integrate in. And I think of a lot of our clientele base right now will really like it. So working on that. Stories, you want some stories? One young lady, in fact, she was here today. She's epileptic, and she actually had a pretty, I'll say, probably the most severe case of detox after going into egg the first time, but she's come back so many times since, and she's never had the reaction after that. It was a weekend, I think it was probably summer of last year, and she had chronic headaches, migraines, which have pretty much all, she said, subsided. And she's just delighted with it. So, you know, it didn't scare her away that she had a little bit of a detox, and she comes back and she's probably here about every 2 weeks.
And I would just like to add in that one of the things that we did during that time is that I connected up with her on an ongoing basis. She had my phone number so that she could connect with me. And her detox was severe. It was about a seven-day detox that she went through, throwing the medications that had filled her body that were causing a lot of the problems. So
yeah, and I'm glad you guys brought that up, because there are people who the first time they're introduced to this energy, it can be a little intense. Mm-hmm. And they can have diarrhea for a couple of days. They could have a headache or some nausea, and it does scare some people away. But I tell them it usually 99% of the time, you don't have that the second, third, fourth time. That first time sometimes is a little intense. So stick with it, because it's really worth it. But if your body's that toxic and you've been on meds, or you drink 7 Diet Pepsis a day, you might have diarrhea for a while. You might have a headache. You know, even sometimes I'll go through a detox if I don't drink enough water. You feel that little headache. So thanks for bringing that up.
Good. Okay, go.
That's actually a good point. Sideways, we you know, we give electrolytes, superior electrolytes to everybody after, and it's like such a talking point around here. I drink it all day. We all drink it, and we're selling them. People love it. I've got mine too. So speaking of drinking water, that's really been awesome for us too.
Yeah. It's really important because it does help with the detox, you know, replenishing your minerals, because as you're detoxing, and everybody knows when you have diarrhea, and I know it's gross, you're depleting your hydration and your minerals. So you put those back in the body. It's really important. Everybody should be getting, you should be sending everybody home with some of the electrolytes, as we've talked about.
We also, that a while back, you created the symptoms about detoxing, not symptoms, but the things to expect. And I took that and I did bullet points, and I really simplified it, but I used your whole thing, and we give that out to everybody. And even people, we give it out a second time if they have forgotten to read it the first time, and maybe they did have kind of a reaction different. We just had somebody today, I gave it back out to her, and I said, you need to read this. This is all part of the process. It's okay.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And I know you've taken a lot of my documentation and simplified it, and I don't even remember what I create half the time. So all the center owners take it and make it their own, but it's brilliant. So thank you for that.
Yeah, great. So who else do you want to?
I was going to mention another lady. This is actually, she comes in more than anybody. She actually has a lifetime, she says lifetime indefinite commitment to the 12:45 slot on Wednesdays.
Every week. This is a weekly.
Yeah. Interesting about her is that she actually was sitting in the egg the other day, and she said, oh my gosh, I'd forgotten about why I originally came in. And she came in for a foot issue, and it was pretty severe. And she sat there and she says, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize why I'd originally come in, because it's so in the past for her now. It's a non-issue. Now she comes in simply for basically just maintenance, her relaxation, and she's here every week. Love
Yeah.
it.
I love it. I love it. I had a few clients like that too, and they're just so fun. And, you know, they're so tuned in spiritually as well, you know, because if you're doing it, you're getting rid of the physical, the emotional, the environmental, and then you start working on the spiritual and you start tuning more into your intuition, and you start removing that veil that keeps us from, you know, tapping into our creator, our higher self, our, you know, God, source, whatever word you use. It's such a beautiful thing. And like, I can't take credit for it. It seems funny that I'm the inventor. I just brought it through me because I'm not that smart.
Well, you know, it's amazing. I was thinking about this last night because I went through and I literally have twice looked at all of the center owners' videos. You know, I did it once and then I go, oh, we've got to get on this and do this. This is ridiculous. And so I did it again last night. And one of the things I realized I thought about, and I even counted, you got 52 egg centers. That's a lot. And when how long, when you think about that, Gail, and I mean, having been in the beginning part of it with you and watching this come to fruition long before you even knew what was happening, to see where you are in the last, what, 3 or 4 years, it's like, wow, that's what our planet needs right now. That's what's, you know, when you look at the stress that we are under, we are, and I'm getting chills as I say it, we are sitting right in the perfect place to be able to help people through what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
It's
amazing.
we're shipping in March, we're shipping eggs number 76, 77, 78. I know some centers have 2 and 3 eggs,
Yeah.
but it blows my mind.
Yeah.
When my CFO said, oh, I think you'll probably sell about 100, I laughed and I like told him to leave. I was like, you're crazy, dude. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But you know, it was just a thing that came through. It's now that I see what I see, it's here in perfect time. It's
It is
so
perfect time.
so crazy, so crazy.
It is
And I'm going to
perfect
just
time.
say that everybody, Ryan may need to exit stage left. They are so packed. They have people all day, every day. So he might have to get somebody out. So just so you know, but Deborah, keep going, go right ahead.
Okay. You know, I had, in terms of fun things that we've got, we have had a family with a little boy who is vaccine injured from when he was 3 years old. He is now 8, he was 8 years old when he first came to us. And the first time in, and I mean, vaccine injured to the point that he is literally in his own world. We never schedule anybody on either side of him. We have his parents come in because he roams around and he looks at all the center and the space. And so the very first time we did the egg, Dad sat in the chair in the corner, Mom sat in the egg, and he would get up and down and up and down. And then he was looking at the runners and he would use the door, and he was really figuring out, and he's very, his dad said he's very analytical about how things work. And so, and he's nonverbal, does not talk. He makes, you know, noises, communication noises, but
1 or 2 words.
1 or 2 words here and there. And so he literally was not in the egg, but Mom was. He would get in and out, and we left the door open. And so we came out at the end, and it went really well. And I was sitting, and I sit kind of catty corner on my chair, and there's kind of this little area where he can sit. Somebody could sit and he was walking around, moving all over the space. And then all of a sudden, he walks over to me, and he turns his back towards me, and he sits down in my lap. And his mom's sitting across from me. And then he turns around and he gave me a hug. It was beyond unbelievable. They live
So
quite a ways
beautiful.
away. And so what we've been doing is we've done a couple of remote sessions for him. And his mom took a picture of him in the egg. And we had the blue on, he likes blue. So what she did is when we were doing a remote for him, she had him sit on the edge of the bed. And she put the blue light on the room, and she had the picture of him on the television set. So he watched himself for 40 minutes sitting on the edge of the bed, just watching himself. It's amazing. And so he's been in a couple of more times, and he's starting now to say a word here and there. She'll say, you know, thank you, just little steps. But that was very, very powerful. Very powerful.
That is so powerful. And I just love the autistic community because they've asked for this egg. You know, everybody knows, well, not everybody, lots of people know the Susie Miller story and how she found me, and you know, the egg through her communication with the nonverbal autistic community, blah, blah, blah. It's such a beautiful story. And I love them. They're such characters.
Yeah.
Even the ones that can't talk, they communicate so well to us, the practitioners, through their body language, through their love, through sitting on our laps or hugging
Yeah.
us. And it's like, it's just meant to make, I want to start crying. So I won't do that.
For sure. And then we had a very significant, early on in the COVID thing, we had a gal call from San Francisco area, and she and her father basically had used the energy genesis remotely. They had, and I think it might have been at your center. They had used the energy genesis, so they immediately called me, and both mom and dad were in the hospital with COVID. And dad was doing better than mom was doing, but mom ended up on a respirator. And so she called and asked me to do remote. We put their pictures in the first day with both mom and dad. Dad got better. He was able to move on in terms of going home, but mom was stuck, was just not, and she was on a ventilator. And we did one session, and I heard the next day, keep on going, don't stop. So we went ahead and did more sessions. We did about 8 sessions. I don't know, I would have to look at my notes, but intuitively I get, okay, we've got a space here. I would call the daughter. I'd say, we're doing a session right now, and hold the space. She would go into meditation, and we did this for probably 8 times, and her mom walked out of the hospital, and she is doing just fine. And every time what I would do is I'd say, okay, I'd call her. I'd say, what's going on with her now? Check with the nurses, and we'd zero in on whatever the specific issue was in the moment, all the way from something going on in her arm to not being able to focus, to not being able to eat. We just went all over the place. And every time I would pick a song that it felt like intuitively felt like it was the one that she needed. And it was an amazing, amazing process. And I maintain contact with all of them.
Yeah, that's the thing. They become our friends, and we get so attached to them. I had a little girl that was in the hospital in Florida, and the mom called me desperately, you know, to help her. And, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen. She said she hasn't had a bowel movement. She's nonverbal, blah, blah, blah. She told me all these things. And I said, it was 10 o'clock at night. And this is me, you know, driving to my center when I had my center at 10 o'clock at night because someone needed, you know, help. And I know you guys are the same way. You guys bend over backwards for your clients, and they love you. But within the hour of her being in the egg, she had a bowel movement in Florida.
Wow. It's great.
I mean, blows my mind.
It is amazing. And you know, as I look at this coming from the emotional body, we're seeing a lot of emotion coming up for people. We had a gal, and she had been estranged from her parents. Her parents were gone. So it's like there was nothing that she could do at this level. And she came in, and she couldn't talk when she got done. And she said, my parents came to me, and she was very emotional. She said, I just need to go sit. And we do have a meditation room where people can go sit and kind of decompress. And she sat down in there. She was probably in there for a half an hour, but we're seeing the release of emotion. And that's what this time is about, the trauma that she went through. And it's just an amazing process. And even the mental, we had a fella get in, and this was actually in the Genesis way back. And he had been in a kind of a disagreement with a partner of his. And he had written him this big, long email, and he hadn't hit the send button yet. And it wasn't coming from a very loving, kind place. He got out of the chamber, and he goes, whoa, I needed to change that whole thing. I needed to come from a place where it was a win-win situation. So it's like when you look at this, and I think it's important to say, not everybody in the egg or in the Genesis or in the chambers has a huge wowie kazowie. And I think it's really, and we say that to people. We had a fellow that came in, he probably came in 10 times. He would get in, and it was relaxing. He was great. By 3 days after, he'd start downloading information, very spiritual, and he would start pulling stuff in. And so we always tell people, because they have a tendency to want to have what they had before if they had this wonderful experience with a certain song. Not always going to be the case.
I think you should patent Wowie Kazowie.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Trademark it, something like that.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. And it's important to say that, you know, you're never the same. It works on a DNA level, it works on a cellular level. You're never the same as the last time. So you're always, you know, getting better and better. And I've been watching the clock, Ryan. I know you got to get somebody out in about 5 minutes. So why don't you guys tell us how people find you? I'll let Ryan do all
I'll
that.
let Ryan do the techie part.
Well, we have our website, lightpathwayswellnesscenter.com. We don't have a lot of social media. We may in the future, but we don't yet. It's not.
Our business is word of mouth.
It is literally, I'd say 95% of the people through the door know somebody who was referred to them almost all the time.
What's your phone number?
916-652-3700.
All right. And Tracy will put it in the show
Yeah,
notes.
one more time,
Like
916-652-3700.
Say that again.
They've had that phone number for
We have that. That was our home phone number. We didn't know why we needed it, but it's a great business line. So we transferred
for
it
30
over.
years.
40 years, 30 years.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I love you guys. You know, you guys are
Thanks, Gail.
amazing. Anybody that goes to see you, they'll feel the love when they come in. So
We call it our family, as I'm sure everybody else does. It's developing into an incredible family, and and that's what we need right now. A lot of people need that because of what's happening. So
yeah,
we want
all you need is love, right?
all we
It's
need
not
is
the
love.
Beatles. All you need is love.
Let me say one more thing as I think about it. Our website or our email is a little different. I'll give you the general one. It's info@lightpathwayscenter.com. So there's no wellness in the email address. lightpathwayscenter.com. That's info@.
Perfect.
Right.
All right. I love you guys. Bye.
Right back to you. Bye.
Thanks, Gail. Bye-bye.